Welcome to the 13th International Conference for Teachers of English, New Perspectives in TEFL in the Post-Pandemic Era. I'm honored to present to you Paul Stufkens. Paul is originally from Christchurch, New Zealand, but has spent the last 41 years in Honduras teaching EFL. He has been teaching in the English area at Zamorano Agricultural University for the past 33 years. He has a licentiate diploma in TEFL from Trinity College, London. I leave with you Paul Stufkens and his interesting presentation.
So, hello to another session of the 12th International Conference for Teachers of English, New Perspectives in TEFL in the Post-Pandemic Era. My title for the session, as you can see, is called A Great Combination, Hybrid TEFL. So I decided to do this because we have made huge changes since we've come back from COVID, and I'd like to share them with you. My name's Paul Stufkens, and I work at Zamorano University, which is an agricultural university 30 kilometers outside of Tegucigalpa, the capital city of Honduras. All right. So, let us start. Now, there are three phases I'll be talking about. Prior to COVID, where we had just face-to-face classes, and we used an LMS support system. For those of you not familiar with this, the LMS is a learning management system. We use the platform Blackboard, whereas there are also others. I've used Moodle also, but I'm more accustomed to Blackboard. And then the second stage, of course, was the 2 years that we were under COVID, where we went from face-to-face to 100% online, both synchronous classes and asynchronous classes. And of course, we continued the use of the LMS system, Blackboard. And now, in other words, post-COVID, from the beginning of 2022 to the moment, which we call these hybrid classes, always using our LMS or our learning management Blackboard system, which is Blackboard. Okay. So let me give you just a little an idea in case you don't know. Zamorano is a residential university, college, where all the students live on campus. We have an 4-year undergraduate program and a master's program. Soon we hope to have even up to a PhD program. Now, when I said Zamorano is a residential college, that means that all of our students live on the campus. All of them. It doesn't matter where they come from. We have students from between 17 and 20 different nations. Most of them, of course, from Latin America. But we do have a few people from English-speaking Belize, 1 or 2 from the United States. We've had people from Italy, from Spain, but basically the Americas, and of course the Caribbean, including Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Okay, so as I said before, that prior to 2020, all of our EFL courses were taught in person on the Zamorano campus, and basically we just used the LMS or Blackboard platform. Now, each of our students had individual laptops, and each of the classrooms had good multimedia equipment with internet access. So the students could use the computers all the time, no problem there, whether in the classrooms, in their dorm rooms, in the library, wherever. And so they had access to the internet, which is very important to know. And we've been using this LMS platform And for those of you who are unfamiliar with LMS or with Blackboard, let me just show you what we can do there and what we've been doing there, both prior and post-COVID, and of course during COVID. Okay, this first slide is an example of how I present to my students the class schedule. They have a syllabus, they all have a syllabus, but here they're a class schedule. So it's easy. So this first column here, these are the weeks, and I've only got up to week 9 here, but as you can see, these are all the weeks, so the week numbers, all right? And then here we have the specific dates for, so May the 1st, 1 hour of class, our class are 50 minutes, and then Wednesday we have a double class. Now, so the students can see everything that we're going to do over the whole trimester, and then here they can see the points awarded for the graded work, these evaluations. Okay, so this is just an example of what we've been doing with Blackboard. Now, here, each student for each of his or her classes has access to Blackboard and all the classes for all the class material. And here just a couple of my classes. This is a second year or a sophomore class, and this one is one of my third year classes. Okay, so we use this platform, as I said, Blackboard, and we can put a lot of these, a lot of information here. So what can we put here? Well, we can put the content, okay, calendar, announcements, discussions, the grade book, messages, analytics, and here, as you can see, I've opened up a folder. So this is the name of the folder, and we put the individual documents within the folder. So this case is workshop number 1. So all the files for the first workshop are in this folder. So why are we doing this? Well, just in case someone is sick or injured, or for whatever reason cannot attend class, okay, they have access 24/7 to all of these files. Now, before COVID, it wasn't too bad. Yes, some students would miss, they'd be sick or whatever. During COVID, of course, we had a lot of people sick, weren't able to attend the classes, the online classes. But everything is here. So even though a person could not attend a class for whatever reason, they have everything here. And especially during COVID, I would even make videos where I would explain everything. Now, the classes during COVID were synchronous. So all of our students were supposed to join our synchronous classes. I recorded each and every class. Therefore, once I had the recording, which we did on Zoom, I uploaded the link to the recording here, not the actual video itself because that takes up a lot of space, but the link to the recording, and I put this here. By the way, we also use Microsoft OneDrive, and so all of our documents are copied on the cloud on OneDrive. So we have a hard copy on the laptop or the computer, and then there's a copy in the cloud. And so we just copy the link to the cloud access, and the students can have it, and that way we don't overload the LMS, or in this case Blackboard. So during COVID, as I said, we had a lot of videos here, a lot of videos of the classes, well, the links anyway. And so these are just the documents now, since this is post-COVID. Okay, however, every so often, if there's an important aspect of a class, I want to go over, or grammar point or whatever, then I will upload short videos of 15 minutes long here onto Blackboard. And once again, I provide the link. So we can do that. Also, here, very good. Now, before COVID, all my writing classes, okay, the writing assignments were done on paper. And I would check them and give them back, or grade them and give them back. But then, because of COVID, I started grading online, still on Blackboard. So I started grading online. And as you can see, there are parts here which are highlighted in yellow. And on Blackboard, all I do is I highlight in yellow, and that comes out the box, and the student clicks on this box, and here is the comment, my comment, or my correction, or my indication. And so here I give them all these points, these comments, and so they have access to that 24/7, since of course during COVID we didn't have paper, right? And so now I've continued with this, since this is very handy, so we don't waste paper, so there's a permanent record, and the students could upload as many drafts as necessary here, okay? Some of my students send in up to five drafts before I okay it, and so all the information is here, which is really, really good. And here's another one, quizzes. Now, generally before COVID, at least most of my quizzes were done on paper. So it's a lot of trees, okay? A lot of printing, but they're done on paper. During COVID, of course, we did them online. And now, post-COVID, we're practically 95%, 97% testing online. Okay, I'll explain a little bit later about the writing tests. Okay, so as you can see, there are some things that we adopted during COVID and we've kept because they're just so handy. And the beauty of these quizzes is you can make them visible to students. You can, as I said here, you can release this under certain conditions. For example, this will open at a certain time, it will close at a certain time. We're giving the students a certain amount of time to do it. Okay, but I'll speak more about these quizzes a little later on. And continuing with Blackboard, here, as you can see, we have all the grades. So when we have a test that's on Blackboard, online, it's either graded automatically or we come along and we grade it and upload the grade. And so the students have all their grades here. Before that, most of the time I would give them their grade and boom, and that was it. They'd have to remember. Although with Blackboard, they could see all their grades, but not as clear as what we have here. Okay, so when COVID came along, most of our students, we have approximately 1,200 students on campus. Most of them are in the undergraduate program, and we have some others under the master's program. Most of them went home. Remember I explained this is a residential university, so they all study here. But most of them went home. But we did have some who stayed on campus, basically because they were from Bolivia or Chile or Peru, Haiti, and they didn't have the money to go home, or in some cases they couldn't go home because the airports were closed down, they were locked down. So we had a few students who stayed on campus. However, under the Honduran Ministry of Health laws, they had to receive their classes online in their rooms, in their dorm rooms here on campus. Since they were not allowed to go to class, we could not mix with them. So those students stayed on campus, received their classes in their dorm rooms. Right? Now, Zamorano and off-campus students were not exactly ready for online learning, of course, just like everybody who was teaching at the time. So Zamorano had to quickly, very quickly supply all the teaching staff with stuff that we never used before. For example, lamps, standing lamps, headphones with microphone that I'm using at the moment, and a lot of other stuff. And of course, we had to be taught how to use these online learning and teaching instruments and tools. Of course, most of us used Blackboard, but we didn't know the teaching aspects of how to teach with Blackboard. We're just uploading, the grades are uploading documents. So we had to learn all that. And so we had to learn all these techniques. However, the greatest obstacle was probably getting all the students connected to the classes. And that's because our students come from not only the urban areas, but also the rural areas. And as you know, in Honduras, the electricity in certain times of the year is off and on, off and on, off and on. And the internet connections are better in the city than they are in the rural areas. And as I said, a lot of our students are from rural areas, whether it's Honduras, or other Central American countries, or South American countries, Dominican Republic, wherever. And so this obstacle was getting our students connected to the synchronous class times. The rural students, of course, unstable connections, not a good bandwidth, and so there were serious problems. Okay, and so that meant, as I said before, we had to record all our classes and then upload them onto the LMS, which I explained previously. Now, that meant that we, the EFL teachers, had to become adept at teaching online and also making these video presentations, because not all of our students could join the synchronous classes for the reasons I've mentioned previously. And so it was rather difficult getting our students online all at the same time, and some got online. A few minutes later, they were kicked off, they got back on, they kicked off again, and so it was a mess. Furthermore, Zamorano is rather unique in the fact that half of our English teaching staff live in Tegucigalpa, and the other half live here on campus. But it didn't matter because we were all teaching online, although the campus Wi-Fi is much stronger than what normally have in Tegucigalpa. Okay, and because of all the power cuts that happened in Tegucigalpa, not only affected the students, but that meant, of course, the teachers, the professors, weren't always able to join their own classes. So then they had to make recordings of the class they're going to teach separately and upload them. So it was a mess, all right? A mess. All right, most of you know all about that. Most of you went through that, but I'm sure there's some of you only just new to teaching, and so you didn't experience that. Now, by the time that 2022 rolled along, we were back to face-to-face teaching, here, at least here at Zamorano. Okay, the students took a few months to come back onto campus because they were staggered the way they came back, but eventually we had everybody about March or April or so back on campus. And so we were back to face-to-face teaching. But by now, we were so used to teaching online that we saw the benefits of both in-person or face-to-face teaching and online teaching. So, why go back to the old system when you've got a new system? So therefore, in 2022, we hybridized our classes to include the good aspects of in-person teaching with the good aspects of online teaching. And so we amalgamated them and became basically eclectic. So as a result, our classes are now taught in person, but these are the changes we have made. We are now using, all of the English courses are using digital textbooks or materials. This one here, this is the one that I'm using this year with two of my second year courses. And this is on agriculture. And then next year, this course, they'll go into agricultural engineering. So we've got these online books. Now, I'm sure some of you are familiar with online books, others not so much. So let's have a look at these online books. Okay. This is a page of one of the online books, and the history book, the first one I showed you on the right-hand side, the right screen, the history of agriculture. And so in this case we have a reading, and there's some questions. Actually, these are pre-reading questions. And even here, we just click on here, and it gives the answers to these questions. Okay. Now, since all of our classrooms have multimedia equipment, we have the ceiling multimedia projectors, we have good computers, we have excellent bandwidth, and so I use these, or we all use the different books depending on the level, the different digital books in class and for homework as well. And so here I usually I try to assign some of these exercises for homework, but most of the students don't really do them, or they copy from others, and so I make sure I go over them in class. These exercises are drag and drop. So for example here, to put seeds in the soil, okay, is to plant or to seed, and so we just grab this, click on this, and we bring it and drop it down here. Okay, I'm sure you've all seen this kind of exercise. Another slide is here. We listen to the recording. Okay, I have good speakers in the classroom, and then the students decide on the correct answers, and then I click on check. And if they have one or two are wrong, then we either try again, or we go to the audio script here, and we can listen. We can listen once again with the audio script, and then they can answer. Okay, a lot of digital books have this kind of exercise, and we have the videos also. A lot of the units have these videos, and then they have questions or different kinds of exercises. These are true, false. Okay, but they have different videos, have different kinds of exercises. And so this is the book that I'm using with my sophomore, the second year courses. Now, because all levels have digital books, most of the testing is online. Okay? In fact, in this course, actually 100% of the testing is done online. So this is not a writing course. And they do have homework, exercises also, which is all online as well. Now, the beauty of that is it's cut down on paper and printing. So we're using much, much less paper now than prior to COVID. Okay, much less paper. That's good. However, before COVID, we had physical books. So the students would buy a book, they'd have it. Now with these digital books, unfortunately, they come with just a 1-year license or subscription. And so they only have it for 1 year. Now, pre-COVID, our students would buy a book, each student buy a book. Then at the end of the course, the year, in a lot of cases, the students would sell their books to the incoming students, the students from the lower year who were going up to that level. And so they would sell the books. Of course, they can't do that now since these are 1-year subscriptions. So they've lost that aspect. However, we found that when students would sell their physical books to other students, once they'd finished the course, a lot of their books had all the answers written in them. So I would make sure that they erased the answers, but that wasn't always possible because some were just so heavily written in pencil or in pen, you just couldn't erase them properly. Okay, so there was a bit of a problem there. All right, there's good and the bad with both. All right, now let's go back to in-person classes. All right, now this is a photo that I'm sure you will not understand, so let me explain. This is one of my pre-COVID classes, and this thing of putting the finger under the nose, in fact, they go like this. 0 English, because this was the last class of their English year. They take 3 years of English at Samarano. This was their last class of their 3rd year, and so this was, no more Mr. Stufkens, no more English. Okay, so that's just a joke that they have. So we decided with this photo. Okay, that's one of the advantages of having the students in the class. You have this personal contact. You see them, you can be with them. It's a lot nicer. Okay. Here we have an in-class. This was an in-class period. This is now. This was this year. In class, and we're online. So here, this was a video conference. Now, every year I give a course from January through April, which is called the Global Seminar. And this conference, at the moment, there are 3 institutions. There's TC3, which is a community college in the United States, upstate New York. There's Earth University from Costa Rica and Samarano from Honduras. And we discuss topics of a global nature, such as food security, water security, carbon footprint, global warming, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, among others. And so I have the students in the class, but we're using the digital means to connect with the other institutions. Also, in class, okay, with the digital books, okay, we have 4 tests per trimester. There are 15 units in each book, okay? So, at the end of 4 units, then we have a Kahoot quiz. So, in the class, I get my students in pairs, okay, in pairs, as a team, and they play against the others. Kahoot, and all the questions are related to the 4 units that are coming up in the next quiz, the agricultural quiz. So the students are there, I can keep an eye on them, they're working in pairs, and they're working online. Another thing, this is called Scrabble. I don't know if you've all seen it or used it, but we have here at Samarano Scrabble sets. We have 11 Scrabble sets, and next week I will deal with one of my classes. I'll get the students playing Scrabble in fours, okay, to help them with their vocabulary. And so this is great in person. You can play Scrabble online, but it's not the same thing as in person. Plus, I can keep an eye on them, and I can help them with the vocabulary if necessary. Also, in person, we have discussions. In this case, the discussion is led by one of the students. So we have discussions in class, which are not as easy online. And I tried during the COVID years using Zoom and these online breakout rooms to try and get them working in groups. But I found it was just so awkward going from one room to another to checking on the students. And the students knew that I wasn't there. And really, for me, it didn't work well. And I spoke to my colleagues here at Samarano, and it didn't work very well at all. Whereas here, I can see them the whole time. And in some cases, these are evaluated. Okay, here is a debate. Here's one group, and here's the other group. And then here, we have the audience, including the professor, and in a lot of cases, the audience takes notes, and they get points for their note-taking. Another advantage of in-person classes, here, this was a panel discussion, okay? And the students, you can see this student has a pen because he's taking notes. Because these students here in the panel, they got points for the panel, the work, what they discussed, but also the students who were listening were active, asking the panel questions and also taking notes. So the whole class was active. And as you can see, this was not conducted by the professor, but by a student. You can't do this online, or it's not as effective, I found. Now, before COVID, we had fairs. We had here, this was a, what do you call it, ethnic fair from around the world. This one here was an Amerindian ethnic fair. Here was this one was a food fair. This one here was a history fair. And so we're able to have these fairs which you can't do online. Okay? And we also had here, this here is a diorama. We had a diorama fair and cultural fair. We had cultural fairs. This is a Guatemalan group. They got points for this. They were oral presentations. In this case, they danced, and then they explained the dance. Okay, this group here, this is from Bolivia. I can't remember the name of the Dutch. Caporales. Okay, and so more stuff that you can't do online. Now, let's look at some other things. Seeing students in person is great. You can, as I said, you can connect with them. You can get them doing a lot of things, and also you can keep an eye on them, making sure they're speaking in English. Okay, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Although quite often I put my students in groups, and some will still go off and use Spanish, but we can't always, control that. So, while we were online, a lot of my students claimed, oh, my camera's not working, or my bandwidth is very low, and so I can't turn my camera on. So we didn't know what the students were doing. And in some cases, I would call on a student that I couldn't see. There was just a blank screen with the name. Okay, so what do you think about this? Name of the person, right? No answer. Hello, are you there? No answer. Then later on, someone came back, and one of my other students would probably text them, hey, Mr. Stufkens asked you a question. Okay? Oh, no, I went to the toilet. Whatever. Yeah. There was no control. Okay? So we didn't know who was paying attention, right? And who was not. So I even got excuses that, I had to go to the kitchen because I wanted to get water. I was very thirsty. Yeah, wow. Who do you believe? Okay. So, with the students physically in the classroom, okay, doesn't mean they can't be online, as I've shown in previous slides. All right. The majority of our testing, as I said, is online, where the students come to the classroom. So with our graded tests, they come to the classroom with their laptops, okay, and they will take the quiz or the test or the exam or whatever in the classroom, and we'll proctor them. And if necessary, we can respond to any valid questions or software issues. Okay. Due to COVID, Samrano paid for a license of what is called Respondus Lockdown Browser. For those of you who don't know what this is, the students, or I make a test, and one of the conditions of the test is I put down students must have their Respondus Lockdown Browser active. So when the student accesses the test, the student can only access the online test, right, with the Respondus Lockdown Browser turned on. And what does this mean? This means that once the student starts the test, no other applications on the computer can be opened. Only the test. They can't use translators, they can't use the dictionaries, they can't use websites, nothing else. So we realized that this was very important during COVID, of course. And now, in my class, the students come with the laptops, they sit down, they're working, they're doing the test online, and they have the Respondus Lockdown Browser, and of course, I'm walking around making sure they're all doing what they're supposed to. Now, why you say? Why don't you just sit down? Because everything's controlled, everything's online, they can't cheat. You got a lockdown browser, what's the problem? I'll tell you in a minute. During COVID, they would go online, they would use a lockdown browser, but who's to say they didn't have a second laptop next to their other laptop, and with that other laptop they're looking up the answers to questions, they're looking at the notes. Okay, so Respondus has a feature which is this, the Respondus monitor. And so here during COVID, we could be watching the students, because the students had to have the camera on. If the camera wasn't working, they couldn't take the test. They had to have the camera on, and so we would have back on our computers, we could see all the little screens of all the students, so we could see what they were doing. And also Respondus detects if a student gives funny eye movements. For example, if a student goes something like this, continuously looking to the side or going like this, movements like this, indicated possibly cheating, and they would the platform would red flag them. Now, in class, laptops, Respondus lockdown browser. However, these guys can still cheat. How? Smartwatches. These days, so many students have smartwatches, it's incredible. And this is very difficult to detect because, yeah, they're right behind their screen, they're They're looking up the answers on their smartwatch. They've got everything on the smartwatch. No, there's a normal watch. Okay? And so they're still cheating. All right, so it's very, very difficult to control these people. Very difficult, all right, with these smartwatches, and they're so, well, not cheap, but more and more people get them. And so you can't really see much. Now, for writing, same sort of thing for writing. These days, the Google Translator is so good that students just, right, lock in or put in here a paragraph or multiple paragraphs, and then boom, within a second they have a pretty good translation. The only time the translator that I've experienced doesn't work very well is with idiomatic expressions. Okay, then it really screws up. But if it's just standard English, no problem. The Google Translator is pretty good. And so getting students writing online, we have to be careful also, okay? If they're doing it in class, make sure they don't have any smartwatches, right? We need the Respondus lockdown browser, otherwise they're boom, 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 and they're watching you, okay? So you're walking around the room, they're watching you. As soon as you come close, boom, they'll minimize something. Then when you go, they'll maximize it, or they'll shut it down. And then you continue walking, they open it up again. Hey, they're little devils, some of them. Some of them, not all of them, not the majority. But some of them, they'll try anything. So we have to be very, very careful, okay? So for writing classes, I prefer the students to write on paper. I can control them a lot more. I will give them a dictionary, a book, a paper, a hard copy dictionary. Depending on the level, whether that's a translation dictionary, Spanish to English, or English to Spanish, or if the high intermediate and advanced levels, which I give, then it's a monolingual English physical dictionary. And that way we don't get them cheating. And now even with this GPT, students can give you wonderful essays. Okay, but of course they're original, but they're not theirs. So therefore we have to be very, very careful. So for that reason, these writing on the computers, I don't like that. So as you can see, a hybrid of the two systems makes life easier and more can be covered. So we cannot just rely on one system anymore. No, not anymore. Both have advantages. We need to be eclectic and use the best of all the worlds, in this case the both worlds. Make learning much livelier and much more efficient. Okay, since this conference is online due to the health protocols, I will not be able to answer any of your questions during the conference. However, here I have included my email address, okay, my email address here, and you can write me if you have any questions or queries or anything, and I'll be happy to respond. If you don't know anything about Samorano, well, here is the Samorano website, and so you can go to the Samorano website to learn a little bit more about our residential agricultural college or university Samorano. So thank you very much for attending the session. I hope you got something out of it. You learned something, and you'll be able to apply some of what I have shown you today. Okay, so all the very best and continue enjoying the conference. Bye for now.